I designed and built a hybrid Murphy bed system that I've never seen done before. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Darian. I'm building out this 2021 Ford Transit hybrid van to take on the road very soon. In this video, I'm going to give an overview of how I came up with this design, how exactly I executed it, and I'll give you a tour of how it works. My approach going into my van's layout and ultimately my bed design was, for this van build, I really wanted to keep it as open and airy as possible. And I really loved the idea of having a hallway that leads all the way to the back of the van. In my last van, I was unable to do that. We kind of had to have a fixed bed because I was living in it full time with a partner and dog, and we really needed that extra storage space. In this van, it's just me, so I really don't need nearly as much storage space, and I can have little extra luxuries like this. So when deciding what kind of conversion or stowaway bed I was going to do, I knew I didn't want a dinette set because of how much work it would be on the day-to-day, and I really wanted a system that I knew I could stick with as a routine every single day. That led me to a Murphy bed option. The reason I didn't go with a full-length Murphy bed that folds down and just there it is, it's ready to go, is because it would have taken away more cabinet and countertop space for me, and I didn't want to give that up. So I kind of came up with this hybrid design where it's almost a mix between a Murphy bed and a dinette conversion. I use the couch cushion to make up the rest of the mattress, and then part of the mattress is stowed away simply against the wall. So with this design, there is a little bit more work than a regular Murphy bed. However, it is a lot less work than a dinette set conversion. With all of that said, let's get into how I constructed it from start to finish. Approaching the construction of this bed was not easy. I had written and rewritten my plans a few times as I realized different things weren't going to work. So I think to start explaining how I did this, I'm going to run through some specs of everything. I constructed the whole bed with 3/4 inch birch plywood, and I based my measurements around a 6-inch full-size mattress. I used horizontal Murphy bed spring hinges from Vivor. You can also get them on Amazon, and I'll link them in the description. They're about 9.3 inches deep and then 5 3/4 inch tall. And then I'm going to grab a measuring tape and run through some of these other dimensions. Starting with these two divider walls. Each one is a little bit different just because of the shape of the van and the back wall. This side is 10 3/4 at the bottom. This rear side is about 10 at the bottom, and then both of them are 7 inches, I believe. Yes. That said, I did make an error when making these. They should actually each come out about 3/4 of an inch further. My bed is a little bit tight in here because when I was originally planning everything in my mind, I thought that this wall was going to sit on the outside of here, but it has to sit on the inside. So I lost 3/4 of an inch of space inside the bed area, and towards the top it is pretty tight. The gap underneath the bed is about an inch, and then the gap above the bed is about 2 1/8. Each one of these slats is 4 1/4, except the first and the last one are 4 3/8, and then the slits in between are a 1/2 inch. The whole wall is about 62 3/16, and then if you include the divider wall, it's 63 13/16. So I'll run through each step of how I made this in the first place. The first thing I did was get these divider walls in place. Once I had that, I built a mock-up of the Murphy bed out of strips of wood with what I suspected my measurements to be, and I attached the hinges to that and my divider walls, got it in here and test fitted it. I'm glad I did because there were things that needed to be adjusted. Once I had my measurements sorted out and was able to visualize everything, I did end up cutting the real deal. I really wanted to make this wall out of one continuous sheet of plywood. A lot of people who make Murphy beds do have to use two sheets and combine them because of the size of the bed. So this wall from top to bottom is 48 inches, which is the standard width of a full sheet of plywood. And then obviously it's just over 63 for the width. I secured my side walls of the bed to this large sheet, and then I test fitted it again. It looked really good, and then I took it back out and then cut grooves in the side walls of the bed just to make it more comfortable getting in and out of bed. I just kind of hand traced a groove and then cut it with a jigsaw and then rounded out the corners with a corner bit on my router. Once that was done, I stained the side walls of the bed as well as this big side of the wall with Minwax water-based semi-transparent stain in the shade Rustic Beige. And then I finished it with polyurethane. I got the bed back in here for good and then built the rest of the bed from inside of the van just to save weight and hassle getting it in and out. The next thing I did was make the bottom wall of this bed that holds a mattress up, and I put that on a piano hinge and two small aluminum latches. That way I could fold it down when the bed is in bed mode, and then I could tuck it back up to support the mattress when I stow it. Being able to lay that wall down when it's in bed mode allows me to utilize the entire width of the van, which is really nice and extends my bed several inches. I then sealed the inside of the bed with more polyurethane, and then I started working on a slat system. I installed the slats, one, so the mattress could breathe and doesn't grow mold, and then two, to provide structural support along the driver wall when I stretch the mattress all the way across the van. I just used pocket screws to pocket screw the slats into one end strip of plywood at the end of the bed that I'm able to just pull in and out when I lay the bed down. And then for the mattress, this cushion and that cushion are just made with medium dense foam from Amazon, and then this cushion is 25 inches of my mattress that I cut. My total available space from wall to wall is 72 inches, so I did have to cut my standard full-size mattress an additional 3 inches. So the total mattress size inside of the Murphy bed is 54 inches wide, which is a standard full size, by 47 inches long. And then when I put it in bed mode, I add that 25 inches from the cushion, making a total of 72 inches in length. So when it goes down in bed mode, this cushion stays there, this one goes there, this one goes into the bed, and then these two cushions provide some structural support underneath the bed. If you've gotten to this point and you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of weight, one, the hinges are rated for far more than my bed weighs. I estimated that the bed weighs about 115 pounds. In addition to that, if you watch my last video, you'll know I installed Timbren SES bump stops. I got those in shortly before I finished the bed, and I went on a trial road trip in my van. When I went on that road trip, I officially had a fully loaded van. I had this bed installed and built. I had a full 30-gallon water tank on the rear passenger axle of my van, and then I have my full electrical system on the driver rear axle of my van. So I was locked and loaded, and I really think the Timbren SES helped me out on that road trip. Upgrading my van's bump stops is something I wanted to do even when I had my last van. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually used to have really bad anxiety about physical objects breaking or failing. I know it sounds really weird. I've gotten better, but it is still a trigger when things are shaking around, especially in the van, and you hit bumps and just things sound like they're breaking and cracking. Upgrading bump stops was something I always wanted to do, but I felt like you had to have experience to do it, and I didn't really understand. Turns out it is super beginner friendly. It literally takes 30 minutes, and it immediately made such a huge difference in my drive. Oh my gosh. I already feel a difference. 5 is so much more smooth. It feels like I'm driving an SUV, like a regular car. Over my trial road trip last month, I drove 9 hours to Chicago on Halloween weekend. None of my cabinet doors or my drawers have any latches. My Murphy bed has 2 small RV latches that are just made of plastic, and nothing popped open on that drive a single time the whole time I was gone. For reference, in my last van, things did pop open constantly, and I just had factory bump stops. Timbren suspension enhancement system kits also reduce body roll and sway, which actually make the van safer to drive and maneuver. They also come with a lifetime warranty. They are the toughest helper springs in the industry, and they've proven so on my van, so I highly recommend anyone with a fully loaded rig to make the upgrade, especially if you're full-time and go off-grid a lot. I'll leave a link in the description, so go check them out. I think it's time to pull out the bed and show you how it works. Before I pull out the bed, I grab this cushion, since this cushion is what's used to make up the rest of the mattress. And then I also leave this back cushion laid here flat. It also provides structural support for the bed when it's down. And then there's an RV latch on each top end of the divider wall, so I like to pull from the middle and it just pops out. Usually do it from the other side. So once it's laid down, I can release the aluminum latches. And then I can just lay this bottom board flat. And then I like to place the cushion at the foot of the bed, but that kind of depends where I'm parked, depending on how the van is leaning. Usually if I'm street parked, this side is gonna be the foot of the bed. So I'll pull it over here. And then with this area cleared, I can pull out my slat system. I will say I really don't need it. I have slept without the slats pulled out and the bed still feels level and flat. So it's kind of like an optional thing for me. I don't know how often I'm going to use it when I'm on the road, but it pulls out nice and easy. I just have to lift the mattress a little. From here, I pull the mattress all the way over, and then I just grab my fitted sheet, put it around the corners of the cushion. And then for the fun part, I just lay it flat. And that's it. From wall recession to wall recession, I have 72 inches of room. If I had flares in my van, I could probably get, honestly, a full-length queen size bed in here, but obviously this is plenty for me. I'm only 5'2", so I really don't need that much length. And then you just reverse the process to put it away. The only other thing really to note that I can think of is because I made my divider walls a little too shallow and miscalculated them, when I do put the bed away, I have to kind of fold my blankets, like my top sheets, in a burrito and lay them across the middle. That way they stow away in this wall recession because there's just not enough clearance at the top right there. And another thing I just wanted to show is how the bed actually doesn't rest on the sides of the couch. I was actually slightly worried about it dinging up this piece of furniture. So I did intentionally design my cushions to be about 3/4 of an inch taller than these, and it's worked out really well. It actually provides a lot of structural support under this to keep the bed casing nice and strong. And then you can see under the mattress how the couch cushion is supporting these slats. But other than that, it's super simple. It takes maybe a minute to set up. It's really comfortable and it just works really well for me. I really hope this hybrid Murphy design helps somebody else achieve their van build goals and hopefully adds another bed design option to the community. If there is anything else that I haven't shared here that would be helpful to know, please ask and I'll get you the best information that I possibly can. I will leave links for all the components used in the bed design in the description below. I'm happy to make a follow-up video down the road, pun intended, but that's all I've got for you today, so I'll see you in the next one.